Welcome back to another episode of Dugout Talk. As you can see here, we've stayed true to our word. We kind of upped how we're gonna go about doing this. Um, I forgot how fun it is to make PowerPoints. I've been talking about that all weekend. I believe I've already made like four or five of them, so
Uh-oh.
we should be in good. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's I started. I woke up yesterday at like 9:30, started working on the Mariners one, and like by 3 o'clock that afternoon, I looked over and I'm like, I was just awake and working on this PowerPoint for like 8 hours. Like,
Gosh.
whew, and I didn't even realize it. But with that said, we have the Texas Rangers edition today on February 22nd, 2021. And we'll start with a little baseball and history. My event happened in 1889. We actually briefly talked about this on Friday. It was Spalding's baseball tour. So in 1889, which is now 132 years ago, Italy's King Humbert or Humberto the First is among a large group of fans who witness a baseball game where the Chicago's beat the All Americans 3-2 outside of Rome at the Villa Borghese. Originally going by the name of the Spalding's Australian Baseball Tour, this trip extends to include multiple contests across Europe, much to the surprise of most of the players that were on board for the trip. Now, as you can see, you got King Humberto down there in the bottom left. Actually got the real picture from when they played that game outside of Rome down in the bottom center. And then obviously Albert Spalding down there in the bottom right. And then over here on the far right, you have the Ambassadors and Pinstripes book, which I looked up. It was really, I only got to read a little bit of it. It's a really good read. You can find it on Amazon for like $6 used. So a very, very fascinating piece of history there and something that happened, 132 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's mine. We'll jump over to Stevens here. Steven, take it away.
All right. Once this thing loads up, I think it's a little slow on my end. There we go. All right.
Okay.
16 years ago today, in 2005, Jerry Coleman is the recipient of the Hall of Fame's Ford C. Frick Award. The 80-year-old San Diego play-by-play broadcaster, who was also the MVP of the 1950 World Series, has spent 41 years up to this point in the booth calling games for the Yankees, Angels, and Padres. Petco Park named their
Wow.
broadcast booth after Jerry Coleman himself. He passed away
Hmm.
back in 2014, just before the season started. But yeah, this was just a cool little history tidbit. It's kind of nice to see some of the best journalists out there being honored in this way, and Coleman was a class act. Like these
Mhm.
pictures that you got up here. So the top right
Yeah.
picture, that's his
Yeah.
Hall of Fame speech at Cooperstown. His picture on the very left, that's him in his days of the Yankee. And I believe
Hmm.
in this picture on the bottom right, I believe this is him
Yep.
during World War II.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. He was a fighter pilot. He was a fighter pilot in World War II and Korea.
right. Wow. I didn't know he was in Korea, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So today we have the Texas Rangers 2020 season in review. They went 22-38 last year, finishing fifth place in the American League West. The two big pluses that they had for themselves last year, they opened a brand new stadium, as you can see in the bottom right. That's Globe Life Field. They unveiled multiple new uniforms. I think it was like three new home, two new away, and a new spring training home. All of those you can see middle right. That was about where the good ended for the Rangers last year. 10 of their 20 players with at least 10 games played. Now, this is 10 of their 20 hitters with at least 10 games played. They finished with a batting average below 200. So half of their team who played any amount of meaningful games for the Rangers last season hit under the Mendoza line. I don't know how that's possible. Other than it being a 60 game season, it's possible. As you can see here, they finished last in the following American League categories: um, runs, hits, batting average, on base, slugging, and ultimately OPS. It was just a bad year for the Rangers. Just a bad year.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what happens when you have a lineup that is literally all or nothing. When you have sluggers like
Oh
Joey
yeah.
Gallo, Rougned Odor,
Yep.
trying to hit for the fences. You know, it just doesn't work. You can't live and die by the home run ball. And
Hmm.
so that pretty much says it right there. There's not a whole lot more to say about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Looking at some of the Rangers off-season changes, you'll see a couple of these names are highlighted in red. For those that may not be big baseball fans, may not recognize some of these players. Just the players that are in pictures here on the screen. Moving forward, I'd like to have them like kind of just highlighted in a certain way, just to kind of give people an idea who they are. Looking at some of their additions, they acquired Dane Dunning and Josh Boers via trades. Both of those guys figured to be immediate help for their, whether it be rotation in Dunning's case or the bullpen for Boer's case. Then obviously they picked up a few free agent pitchers, which if you actually look at their subtractions, they kind of balanced it out between guys they lost. They kind of brought back similar talent. Um, Pitchers like Tyson Ross, Mike Fultonevich, Jarrell Cotton, Kohei Arihara, and Nick Vincent are all guys that they brought in on cheap deals. Kohei Arihara, it's going to be interesting to see how he can transition to the major leagues. Um, they acquired a catcher from Oakland, Jonah Heim. He was in the Elvis Andrus, Chris Davis trade. Nate Lowe, I believe it's Nate Lau, who they got from Tampa Bay. Charlie Culberson's a relatively good utility player, including Brock Holt's another good utility player. And then obviously they got outfielders David Dahl, Delino De Shields, and then the DH/left fielder Chris Davis. What have your thoughts been on some of their additions that they've made this winter?
Um, Really not all that impressive. The Chris Davis addition, I guess, has probably been their biggest and most impressive one of all. Jonah Heim could be a pretty good piece for them as well. He was actually pretty highly touted in the A system. He was one of their top prospects there, and he's one of the Rangers' top prospects right now. So Heim could be a good addition for them. But other than that, um, I'm not. I don't really think any of these additions make the Rangers better. Granted, I think they probably aren't as bad in a 60 game stretch versus a 162 game
Mhm.
stretch. But again, they really, outside of David Dahl, they didn't really go out and try to improve the offense. Pitching wise, they're kind of bringing in unproven pitchers and guys who have been moving around a lot, especially kind of in the likes of Tyson Ross, who hasn't really been able to find a steady home
Mhm.
since his days in San Diego. And then Mike Fultonevich. He's a good addition to their rotation, but he wasn't all that stellar with the Braves the last couple seasons. So um,
Mhm.
they have done a lot of, clearly what they're doing is rebuilding the team. Um, Even though
Yeah.
they've gone out and added some pieces that can be immediate contribution to them this year. What they're pretty much doing is they're going out and getting guys that are still young enough that they can, one, develop, but two, throw them out there and let them work through their struggles if there are any that come up, and hopefully learn from those struggles to become elite major league ball players, and not
Mhm.
taking a shot at them on that at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that, but pretty much kind of what they've done, it hasn't been anything that's really something to say, oh, this team is the team to beat now. Um,
Mhm.
because I feel like half of these guys probably won't even be on the team towards the end of the season anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
just kind of looking at it right now and seeing what they've done this offseason, definitely more or less they're just kind of putting a team out there and waiting for their
Mhm.
prospects to develop. And I imagine a lot of their prospects are going to get time playing again this year, much like last season. And we'll probably
Mhm.
see newer prospects make their debuts this season as well. So I don't know. I guess if they realize they're in a rebuild, which I'm sure they do, um,
Hmm.
what they've done this offseason is perfectly fine. It's doable. It'll work. Um, but it doesn't make them a better team necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at some of their losses from this past offseason, guys like Lance Lynn, Corey Kluber, Elvis Andrus, Danny Santana, and Shin-Soo Choo immediately stand out. In the case of Chu and Andrus, these are guys that have been on the team for multiple years. Andrus has spent his whole career here.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of figured that Elvis, would be. I mean, I think Elvis Andrus was the last player left over from their World Series runs
I think
in
you're
the early
right.
2010s. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm glad for the Rangers case. I'm glad that they are finally realizing that they don't have the potential to make a run, and they're going to, actually go through and try to rebuild and rebound this team.
Yeah, they were in a really awkward stretch for a while, it felt like. And I get it.
Hmm.
When teams are kind of in that phase of they could either rebuild or retool, it probably won't hurt them, but they have to realize when it's not working. And I think the Rangers
Hmm.
failed in this instance, that they didn't realize it wasn't working out. And they probably should have started this rebuild a lot sooner than they did. Probably as soon
Hmm.
as they ousted Jeff Bannister from
Yeah.
the helm in 2018. That's probably when they should have started doing this. Granted, I get it. 2019, they overachieved a little bit and
Yeah.
actually played some decent baseball, so it made it harder for the front office. But sometimes, as a front office, you got to realize kind of what you're doing here. And I think, especially when you're getting a new manager in, sometimes you just got to shake it all up and redo it, um, even if it takes a few years for things to really come through for them. And
Hmm.
with that said, I do feel bad for Chris Woodward because I think he's probably got the hottest seat as far as
Oh
managers
yeah.
go going into the season. I think his seat is probably the hottest right now, which this hasn't really been his fault. Um,
No.
it's more so the Rangers just didn't plan very well, and they thought they could get away with another couple of
Yeah.
years. And after last season, I know it was only a 60-game season, but after last year, it really just kind of goes to show they had to do this. They had to rebuild and tear everything
Oh yeah.
down again, and hopefully get everything back together like it was
Hmm.
during 2010 through 2013.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. Looking at kind of how some potential lineups stand out here. Just kind of looking over mine, I think it's a definite youth movement that they're making here. A couple sneaky guys that I think could be, not necessarily key contributors to this lineup, but good contributors at the very least. I've been super high on the center fielder Leody Taveras for multiple years now. I think he's one of the better outfield prospects in baseball, and I look forward to seeing how he can do in a full season. Right behind him, I have Isaiah Kiner Falefa, the shortstop. Looking at the rest of my lineup, it's right, left, right, left. If I have the opportunity to do that, I will. Especially now the pitchers have to face three batters. I do like the idea of doing it. I don't think it's a necessity, but it is a definite plus to do. As you can see pictured in the bottom right, I have the right fielder Joey Gallo hitting third. You could probably make the assumption that he had just struck out there, as he does quite often. Um, right behind him is another guy that strikes out fairly often, Chris Davis. I think Chris Davis could be extremely powerful down there in Texas. I think, excuse me, Chris Davis has that great power. I know that the last two or so seasons haven't been fantastic with Oakland, but I mean, if he's going to hit 40, 45 home runs in Oakland, who knows what that would transform into in Texas?
And hit
Playing 82
247
games there.
again.
Yes, yes. I hope he hits 247. Yeah, 4 straight years. One of them, I believe, was with Milwaukee, but then his first 3 years in Oakland, he hit 247 as well. Um, right behind Chris Davis, I have Nate Lau. Nate Lau figures to be their first baseman. Um, never, never really given the opportunity to take over the starting role of first base in Tampa Bay. Nate Lau and Brandon Lowe were kind of like, young up and coming potential key players for the Tampa Bay Rays. Unfortunately for Lau, that didn't really work out, mainly because of G-Man Choi, who kind of has first base lockdown for Tampa Bay moving forward. I have the second baseman Nick Solak in the sixth hole. I have David Dahl, the left fielder, who I'm actually really excited to see in Texas. He's going from Colorado to Texas. In terms of stadium layout, he's going from a hitter's paradise to a hitter's paradise. So I look forward to seeing him in more of a laid back role. It feels like everything the Rockies have done in the past couple years has been really tense. They're always trying to compete, but they're trying to do it in the cheapest way possible, and that didn't really work out. And then the guys like Arenado and Story get upset, and so I think for David Dahl to kind of take a step back, go to a laid back place. Texas the Rangers know what they're doing. They know what kind of team they're going to be next year. So I think it's a good opportunity for David Dahl to kind of break out, kind of to say. And then I have the catcher Jose Trevino and the third baseman Rougned Odor to round out my lineup.
Yeah, I think I actually have the same guys in my lineup.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny. We've had this literally the same guys for the most part uh, in our
Yeah.
lineups up to this point. David Dahl, it's really unfortunate his time in Colorado because this guy had so much potential, but he was one of those fragile outfielders, just could never stay healthy for the life of him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lot of fun to watch though. He was always someone that whenever I would go to Rockies games, I really loved it when he was in the lineup. He's one of my all around favorite players. So I'm hoping that going to Texas, he can kind of have a resurgence and actually play a full season. Um, as far as the ballpark layout goes there, that ballpark seems a lot bigger than most. I haven't really seen it fully. I know they played a lot of postseason games
Mm-hmm.
last year, but I didn't watch most of the postseason. But the ballpark seems really big out there, so I'm not sure how it's going to benefit him as far as power goes. He's not a big power hitter anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but I think he's going to be a good leadoff guy for the Rangers. He did some leading off in Colorado as well. I think he's going to be the primary leadoff man for right now to start off the season. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I've got him at shortstop batting second. He can also play catcher. So he's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of he's kind of one of those nice utility guys to have. I think this could be a big year for him. He hasn't really had that potential to play a full season yet, but I think getting that
Mm-hmm.
chance to play full time this year, I think he's going to show what he's capable of with the bat. Joey Gallo, I've got him hitting third and in right field. The DH Chris Davis, I've got him hitting fourth. That could be a decent 1-2 punch as long as Gallo and Davis can cut the strikeouts down. And
Yeah.
swing for the fences every time they go up. But um, those guys are both capable of hitting some 500-foot
Oh yeah.
moonshots. It could be
Oh
fun.
yeah.
It could be fun down there, Globe Life Field, seeing those guys back to back. Nate Lau, the first baseman, I've got him hitting fifth, and I think being in Texas, this will be a nice opportunity for him. They also have Ronald Guzman. They could easily go with him too, depending on
Yeah.
how Lau produces, but I think he does have the upper hand going into opening day. Rougned Odor, the third baseman, I've got him hitting sixth. I think it's interesting that they've got him at third instead of second because
Mm-hmm.
he's been kind of their cornerstone at second base for the last really since about 2014. He's kind of been their everyday guy there.
Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see how he does with the transition at third. Nick Solak, I got him at second. He can also play some outfield. He
Mm-hmm.
was one of their top prospects last year. I think this guy has a pretty high ceiling in front of him. I'm excited to see how he performs this year. I'm hoping that he can really make himself known to the rest of the league. I think he's going to be a good piece for Texas to kind of build around over the next few years. The center fielder, Leody Taveras, I got him hitting eighth. And then the rookie catcher, Jose Trevino, I got him hitting ninth.
Yeah. It figures to be At least a well-rounded lineup. They've got guys that fit different player types, different archetypes as far as build goes. They've got a couple home run guys. They have a couple get on base guys, and then they have some just decent. I'll say all around. Not that they're great all around hitters, but they are decent all around hitters. Guys like Tavares and Dahl come to mind immediately. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this lineup can navigate through a full season. Obviously, as we've mentioned, there's going to be tons of minor league guys coming up and getting opportunities.
Yeah.
Even just in spite of injuries that may occur. Looking at some potential rotations here. Again, we have the same guys in our rotations. I think they might actually give Kohei Arihara. I don't know if I don't know if Woodward has named an opening day starter yet. I know Seattle has, but I think Kohei Arihara, depending on how he does in spring training, may actually win a starting job for them. Um, I like Kyle Gibson as the number 2. I like Jordan Lyles as the number 3. Dane Dunning pictured there with his nerdy glasses. I like him as the number 4. And then the former Brave Mike Fultonevich as the number 5 to round out my rotation.
Those aren't nerdy glasses. That's the way. That's the way to go, man.
They look cool. I won't lie. They
Those
look
big
cool.
frames. I'm
Yeah.
a sucker for those. Really, I think those are. Well, I think those look really good. The square frames. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think the Rangers rotation has a lot of question marks for me. It's mostly because outside of Kyle Gibson, a lot of these guys either haven't really proven themselves yet, haven't had a lot of major league time, or they've been super inconsistent. Um, and I'm really glad that Kyle Gibson's kind of found himself over the last couple of years. I know with the Twins, he was a really highly touted pitching prospect for them. Thankfully
Mm-hmm.
for him, it did work out more at the end, but he was kind of a slow development. Um,
Yep.
but I think he's going to be the ace on opening day just because he's the more seasoned guy. If you're talking more success and consistent success,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the more seasoned guy, and I think he'd be a good opening day pitcher for them to get the season started. Mike Fultonevich, I do like him as a number 2. I think maybe getting away from Atlanta, and having a new change of scenery and just kind of being in new territory, I think will help him out and kind of help him find the early success that he had in Atlanta. Like I said, the last couple of years weren't great for him, but I think going to Texas is going to help him out a lot. I like him as the number 2. Kohei Arihara, I like him as the number 3 guy right now. Opening day, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, really, any of these guys could probably be the opening
Yeah.
day
Any of
guy.
them.
So I wouldn't rule it out, but I think he's a good number 3 to have for the moment. Dane Dunning, I like him as the number 4. I like seeing the uh, the young pitching prospects kind of not take the last spot in the rotation, but be put like kind of in the middle. I think it's a good
Yeah.
spot to put them actually, especially when they haven't been seen a lot. They can kind of be sneaky
Yep.
for a little while, um, and I'm excited to see what Dunning does for the Rangers this year.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he'll be a
Absolutely.
good building piece or a good piece for the Rangers to build around in the future too. As far as maybe future ace goes, I'm not sure about that yet. I'd have to watch him pitch a little more, but I
Mm-hmm.
do like him as the number 4. And then Jordan Lyles, I've got him as the number 5. He's been really inconsistent out of the rotation, but I think being in Texas, he should easily win the job down there. But I also think he's going to be one of those guys that gets moved at some
Mm-hmm.
point in the season, whether it's if he doesn't perform well, he gets DFA'd, or if he gets
Mm-hmm.
traded down the line. He's capable of being good. He's just not. He doesn't consistently show the signs though, and so just kind of looking at this rotation, it's very average at best. I think Kyle
Yeah.
Gibson's really the best guy they have. Kohei Arihara
Oh,
could be
yeah.
potential
Yep.
ace for them, maybe. But yeah, I think the rotation is going to be interesting to watch this year to see how everybody performs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know when you and I both talked yesterday briefly about why we chose our floors and ceilings for the Rangers. We both mentioned that their pitching is still a relatively large unknown.
Yeah.
Their bullpen's unproven, as you can see here. Just kind of going over their bullpen. I think Jose Leclerc has probably nailed down closing opportunities for them. Um, I, I don't know, outside of a couple, maybe a couple guys who could see some outside chance of taking that job. I think it's Leclerc's to lose. I like Jolie Hernandez, the left-hander, to kind of be somewhat of a setup man. I think Nick Vincent has a good opportunity to make this team. He's a proven veteran. I like Ray Ramos. I've always liked Ray Ramos, going back to his Philadelphia days. Um, I know he's probably not a favorite to win a job on this team, but I'm certainly rooting for him. And I think this team would be better off with him on it than off. Jonathan Hernandez, who you can see pictured on the right side of the screen. I have Taylor Hearn, the left-hander, Josh Zbors, as we mentioned earlier, and then the lefty Brett Martin. Now, real quick, I almost went with Brett Dugout in terms of in favorite of Brett Martin. Um, I don't know what it is. I am just kind of willing to give Brett Martin the opportunity. But it's like a 51-40 in my eyes as far
Mm.
as that goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I was looking at Fangraphs when I
Mm-hmm.
was looking at my research, and I had really no clue who like any of these guys were. This
Yeah.
is just a young bullpen. I had to look and see if any of these guys even debuted last season, and a good chunk of them did. So
Mm-hmm.
like I understand why I didn't really know who a lot of these guys were. Um, their bullpen is so up for grabs. I think it's hard to say they have a closer in mind going into opening day.
Mm-hmm.
You did bring up a good point about Jose Leclerc. He's like the veteran right now in that bullpen, unless if you want to count Nick Vincent in. But if I remember right, Vincent is a non-roster
Yeah,
invite. Um, is that
he
is that
is.
right? Yeah. So my
Yep.
bullpen definitely looks a lot different. I guess for right now, Jonathan Hernandez
Yeah.
seems like a guy that has closing capabilities. So I've got him slated there right now. But again, I think this is a bullpen that's really up for grabs. Anyone can get anything. There's no set in stone place for anybody right now. Uh, but then I've got Jolie Rodriguez and Jose Leclerc in the back end of that rotation or bullpen. Brett Martin, Taylor Hearn, Josh Sabors, Colby Allard, and Brett DeGoose. I've got them rounding it out right now. I think the thing, Colby Allard, he is capable of making starts. I looked at his numbers last year, and he was in their rotation uh, for a very brief time. He could be someone that maybe
Mm-hmm.
if Jordan Lyles doesn't quite work out, Allard could slip into the rotation. Even if they wanted to go 6-man, Allard could be a guy that sees some time in the starting rotation. I think he's probably going to be on the opening day roster to some degree. And then Josh Sabors.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was a highly touted Dodgers prospect. It'll be interesting to see if the Rangers feel like he's ready for an opening day roster spot. But again, this bullpen is so up for grabs. Really, anyone could be in it. I think this has probably been the hardest bullpen to project so far going into the season because there's so many holes that need to be filled that it's really going to be
Mm-hmm.
just a major competition going all around.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who wins jobs in that bullpen, and more importantly, how it performs. Looking at some of our prospects, um, kind of I don't have a name for it yet. As of right now, it's just three prospects to watch. I've been brainstorming, trying to think of maybe a catchy phrase for it, but just kind of jumping in. My first prospect I want to cover is the number 2 overall prospect in the Rangers system at this point. That's Sam Huff. He's actually pictured there with Ken Griffey Jr. After he won the 2019 Futures Game MVP. He is a catcher. He's 23. Last year, he actually appeared in 10 major league games. He played very briefly with the Rangers last year, and his slash line is outrageous. He had 355, 394, 742 in his 10
Wow.
games, 31 at bats. He finished with 3 home runs, 4 RBIs, and a 200 OPS plus,
Hmm.
meaning that he was 100 points better than an average hitter. In 2019, as I mentioned, the Futures Game MVP. And he's another one of those guys who went straight from at this to his point in his career, entering last season. He had only reached high A, so A plus was the highest level he had reached. And then the Rangers, I don't know if they liked what they saw enough to bring him up and take a chance, but they did. And obviously, it worked out pretty well. Looking at his last two full seasons in 2018 and 2019, he played a total of 245 games. In those 245 games, he had 232 hits, so almost a hit per game. He hit 46 home runs, drove in 127 RBIs, and scored 124 runs. Um, uh, Originally, he was a seventh round draft pick, or sorry, he was a seventh round draft pick back in 2016, actually out of Acadia High School in Phoenix. Um,
Okay.
he really found his power stroke. I think in his first two pro seasons in 2016 and 17, he had like 15 home runs total, and then he topped that total in each of 2018 and 2019. So he's definitely on the rise in terms of power. His batting average is going to sit right around 250, 250 to 270, somewhere around that area. I don't think he's going to hit 355 over the course of a full major league season. Props to him if he does, but I'm not sure that I see that. I was originally considering giving him a potential MLB bench spot as the number two catcher behind Jose Trevino, but if you remember, Texas did trade for Jonah Heim, the
Yeah.
backup catcher from Oakland. I think they're going to give Jonah Heim the opportunity, unless Huff is just going to absolutely blow the doors off in spring training this year. I know he's an invite to spring camp. A lot of people have Huff listed as their Rangers 2021 breakout player of the year. Um, it'll be interesting to see if they give him an opportunity. Maybe because I mean, it's because they have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who can also play catcher. Um, Maybe it's possible they only carry Trevino as a pure catcher, and they can use that spot that would be taken by either Huff or Heim for another player. But it'll be interesting to see. Catcher's definitely an open position. Jose Trevino doesn't have that job locked down. It is his to lose, but he doesn't have it locked down like some other teams. Looking at my second prospect, obviously just looking at my list, I chose a lot of really high ranked guys. I didn't mean to. I don't look at prospect rankings until afterwards. But Cole Winn is my second prospect there. Actually, he's pictured there with the crawdads, the hickory crawdads, I believe they're called, which would be A ball. So Cole Winn was the 15th overall selection back in 2018. 2019, he played his first full season in pro baseball. He wasn't particularly effective, pitched to a 4.46 ERA across 18 starts, 68.2 innings, finished with a 4-4 record. He had 65 strikeouts, which in 68 innings is relatively decent. His big issue was he gave up 39 walks as well. That's like 5.7 walks per nine. He also gave up 59 hits and 5 home runs, leading to a 1.427 WHIP. He still needs plenty of seasoning. I think what really stands out to me is just kind of his overall makeup. From what was talked about him pre-draft, he has I think 3 good plus pitches. His fastball's pretty decent, should sit mid 90s to upper 90s. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of continues to perform. He's only 21, so he's got plenty of time, plenty of years to put in the system and make his way up. I have him predicted as probably double A to start the season, maybe high A to start the season. This will only be his second full year, so there's no rush for him. Looking at my third prospect is the number 8 prospect for the Rangers entering 2021. This is Anderson Tejeda. Anderson Tejeda is a shortstop who with a little bit of second base experience. He's 22 years old. Like Sam Huff last year, he played in 23 major league games. So he was a relatively decent mainstay for them. Tejeda is actually one of the 10 players who played 10 games last year who hit over 200. So that's always a plus. Um, In his 23 games, he hit 253, 273, 453. So not a great slash line when you look at his on base and his slugging. His batting average is decent. His 75 at bats that he had 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and he had a 4-to-1 stolen base to caught stealing ratio. Um, he's had decent minor league numbers across his career. Um, right around his average that he had last season, 255 or 253. His career average is right around that, sitting at 255 in his minor league career. He's shown flashes of power. He's hit over 10 home runs a few times in the minor leagues. He's also shown a little bit of speed. He's got a good glove at both shortstop and second base. He was another guy like Huff who went straight from A plus to I'm sorry. It's snowing. It's snowing like crazy outside.
It's all good.
It's actually snowing sideways at some points. It's getting
Oh
really
God.
windy. All right. Just to round out my prospects here. As I was mentioning, like Sam Huff, Tejeda went straight from high A to major leagues. Must have been something that the Rangers liked, something that they saw that they thought could potentially play at the major league level. I think Tejeda's probably a double A or triple A to start the year, but definitely give him an opportunity to maybe make the major league roster. It'll be interesting to see what he does in camp.
He probably has a good chance considering what the Rangers have right now. He probably has a pretty good chance of making that at least a bench spot on opening day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my prospect watch. So I'll start off with one of the coolest names
Yeah.
probably in baseball, Steele Walker. He's our number 13 prospect. He's an outfielder. He's 24 years of age. He's never all my prospects have never played above A
Mm-hmm.
ball. But I project that Walker probably will start the year in Double A. Just kind of looking at some of his minor league numbers. He's played about what is equivalent to a full season of major league games and some change. 164 games, 338 on base percentage, 15 homers, 83 RBI. So he's got a little bit of pop in the bat. He will drive in runs. He's got 60 walks to his name, 115 strikeouts in those 164 games, 265 average, 423 slugging percentage, and 761 OPS. So this guy he will get on base. He'll take his walks. He'll strike out a little bit. He's pretty consistent, I'd say. He's been about kind of the 260 mark for the most part of his minor league career. But I think this is a guy that could be a sneaky good prospect for the Rangers. He could be someone that contributes, maybe even this year at the major league level. I wouldn't necessarily bank on that, but it is possible if he starts
Mm-hmm.
the year in Double A and he does well enough down to Double A and then makes the advance to Triple A, he could be a late addition to the roster. So I would keep my eye out on him. The next guy I've got is a number 15 prospect who is also a catcher, David Garcia. It seems like the Rangers are really high on catchers these days. He's 21
Mm-hmm.
years old. He will probably start the year in Single A. He's played 140 games in the minors, 332 on base percentage, 7 homers, 75 RBI. So he doesn't have a ton of power in the bat, but he will make contact and drive in runs. 55 walks, 117 strikeouts. He's got a 252 batting average, but he hit 277 in 2019. So the bat is starting to come around a little bit. He's also got a 358 slugging percentage and a 690 OPS. This is a guy I wouldn't imagine is going to be an immediate impact on the team, but maybe down the line, maybe as early as next year, if not probably by 2023, he should start seeing major league time if he continues this upward trend. I think the 252 batting average is probably going to be about what he's more capable of hitting. But again, 277 in 2019, he is starting to come around that way a little bit. So will be interesting to see how he does down in the minor leagues to start the year if he can continue that trend with the bat. And then the last guy I want to take a look at. This is a guy I think could be he is a rising star and could be on the team at some point this year. I talked about how the bullpen is very much up for grabs. If this guy gets a spring invite, he there's no reason that he couldn't make the opening day roster, in my opinion. And that's the number 20 prospect, Yuri Rodriguez. He's a starting pitcher, 23 years old. The highest he's played is A ball as well. But get this, in the minor leagues, he just recently became a starter too. He's got 43 games career, 30 of those are starts, 17-8 record, 2.42 ERA, and 193.1 innings pitched. He has a 228
Wow.
batting average against him, 8 home runs given up, 208 strikeouts, and only 40 walks, and a 1.06 whip.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was looking at this, and to see that this guy is only in A ball, this could be one of those
Mm-hmm.
guys that makes the jump and could be on the major league team this year. I think of the prospects that I'm reviewing, Yuri Rodriguez has the greatest chance of being on the major league team at some point this year, especially if he can keep putting those numbers up. I mean, this guy's absolutely insane. 208 strikeouts in those 193 innings. So
Mm.
it's better. It's about two strikeouts an inning.
Yeah.
Uh, it's unreal. I was looking at this and I couldn't believe it, especially the 40 walks. This guy has great command
Yeah.
for being in such a low grade of minor league ball. This guy has great command. I don't know like the inside numbers on his pitches or anything like
Mm.
that, but I imagine this guy's got some filthy stuff
Yeah.
if he's
Yeah.
racking up strikeouts at a high rate like that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The Rangers have a surprisingly deep pool of prospects. It'll be interesting to see kind of who makes the jump, who kind of stands out, and so forth. Um, Looking at kind of our Rangers projections for 2021, I like the Rangers to be anywhere between 75 and 87 at the very best, and 68 and 94 at the very worst. Um, you could almost argue their floor should be just a little bit lower, maybe as low as 60 wins. I think that if they can get enough prospects up that can potentially kind of jumpspark their team towards the end of the season, I think it's very possible that they might win a few games. Um, they're always competitive, kind of regardless of uh, who's on the team. They've always kind of been a nuisance for most of those AL West teams. So I think it is possible they're at least going to be semi respectable on the field. And it's something that we're going to start doing is kind of give three key factors as to why we think their ceiling and their floor is what it is. My three key factors for today: the fact that, as I've mentioned, the Rangers have young and unproven hitters. A lot of guys are going to get their first, taste of a full major league season this year. Their pitching is a large unknown. There's a lot of guys that, as we mentioned, especially in that bullpen, we have next to no idea of what they could potentially be, what kind of impact they're going to have on the Rangers this season, and so forth. Even my opening day starter for the Rangers, Kohei Arihara, is a relatively large unknown entering this year. And then my other key factor is the fact that other AL West teams are improving quickly. The Mariners have buku outfield prospects, whether it be Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kelnick, Kyle Lewis, Taylor Trammell now. The Mariners are going to quickly get better. Oakland's always competitive. Houston's always competitive. Houston's taken a step back, but they took a step back from being the division winners to just competing for the division title. So, they're still going to be competitive. It's going to be tough for Texas to make a mark in the AL West. And so that's why I kind of think they're going to be bottom feeders again in 2021.
Yeah, I think for me, I could see them winning as many as 76 games, going 76 and 86. I got their
Mm-hmm.
floor about 66 and 96. You're right, though. The Rangers are kind of a nuisance team. They always seem to be in it to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. They always kind of pick fits with
Yeah.
everybody, especially in the division. My three key factors for this, though, their lineup is super inconsistent. They've got a lot of guys who are swing and miss,
Mm-hmm.
or they hit the ball 500 feet.
Yeah.
And to me, I've said this many times, you cannot live and die by the home run ball, because if you
No.
live and die by it, you're going to die by it more times than
Oh yeah.
you win by it. And the Rangers being where they are as far as a rebuild goes, they especially cannot afford to be a hit and miss team like
Hmm.
that. Um, their bullpen is also very unproven. They have a lot of young guys. They got a lot of potential prospects who are going to be in the bullpen most likely at some point this year. Um, there's no definite spots for anyone right now being there. Their bullpen concerns me more than the pitching staff. I think the pitching staff at least has some
Hmm.
credibility, but the bullpen,
Yes.
um, these guys have a lot to prove, and they have a lot to prove as to why they should be on the team. So I think,
Hmm.
kind of looking at that, the Rangers are going to see a lot of changes in and out as the year goes on, unless if they can add a solid piece that they know for sure is going to be with them 90% of the year.
Hmm.
And then my last reason is a rebuild in progress. The team is rebuilding. It's really the first rebuild that they've done in a long time, at least since I've started paying attention to baseball, which has been about 11 years now. This is the
Hmm.
first time they've really done a rebuild.
Yeah.
And when a rebuild is going on, there's more lows than there are highs, and there's just isn't. I wouldn't say there's not a lot to look forward to this year, but there's not a lot of high expectations for this team this year. It's going
Hmm.
to be fun to see the prospects come up. It's going to be fun to see the young guys get playing time, but again, there's going to be a lot of lows. There's going to be some highs, but mostly lows, and that's why, more or less, to me, they're kind of the bottom feeders of this division again going into 2021.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just kind of who the Rangers. I think the most interesting thing to keep an eye on are who the Rangers decide to bring up as far as prospects go. Um, Rangers fans don't really have much to look forward to as far as October baseball, but I'm excited to see Sam Huff play again. He was dazzling in the minor leagues, incredible in the major leagues. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to see. Um, as always, you can find us on our different social media sites. You can find us on Instagram at Real Dugout Talk. You can find us now on TikTok at Dugout Talk. You can find us on Twitter at Dugout Talk One. Obviously, you can find us here on YouTube at Dugout Talk, and you can find us on Facebook at Real Dugout Talk. Thank you guys for watching. This has been another fantastic episode. We're starting our second to last week here. I'm looking forward to seeing how the AL West shapes up. I'm looking forward to seeing how the NL West shapes up. And I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to what we're gonna do after projections are over.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at the Angels tomorrow, and we've been blessed with a lot of high
Mm-hmm.
ceiling notes from one of our subscribers. Um,
Yep.
so it's going to be maybe a little bit of a different show tomorrow. He won't be on the show, but we're going to
Mm-hmm.
be using a lot of what he's been giving us, him being a diehard Angels fan. So we're very grateful to you for giving us those notes and helping us out
Absolutely.
with tomorrow's episode.
Absolutely.
It should be a fun one. It should be a little different compared to others, as like we'll be doing our own research, but we're also going to actually be getting what fans are wanting
Mm-hmm.
to hear as well.
Yep. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I had a blast putting together the PowerPoint for it. Look forward to just displaying it to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, until then, stay safe out there, stay warm.
Yeah, seriously.
Have yourselves a great rest of the day, and we'll be covering the Angels for you tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you then.
See you guys.